This is where it gets really interesting because, like I said, its first use case was to help on addiction, because there's something around NAD that works with neurotransmitters, and it's just shown to have a real benefit on curbing addiction, especially to alcohol.
Amazing.
Because when you drink acetaldehyde, which is the poison that you get from alcohol, NAD has to be used up very quickly, and your NAD levels go down. So you're replenishing yourself. So that is why you can use it. You could actually use it as a hangover cure. That is why they touted it as a hangover cure, because NAD comes back into the system where alcohol's removed it.
Hello and welcome back to the Face It podcast, run by Faces Consent and app by practitioners for practitioners. I'm your host Jess, and today we welcome a really interesting episode actually, and guest to the podcast, something a little bit different. But first, a bit of a small reminder that you can rate, review and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We are now around 120 episodes, I think it is, into the show. So there really is so much value and information and insights from our practitioners. So if you are new or you know someone who is starting out, then please share us with them. It's free to listen, and you never know what small piece of advice may be just what you needed to change something huge in your business. So if you'd like the chance to come and chat to me about your experiences, share your stories and expertise, then of course let me know. You can find me on Instagram at Jess_Messenger, that's MESSENGER, or you can message Faces directly at Faces Consent app on Instagram. It is though now time, of course, to introduce our wonderful guest today. So a big warm welcome to Nikki from NAD Plus. Welcome, Nikki, to the Face It podcast.
Hi, yes. How are you?
Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us today. You guys are super busy. So it's really, really hard to pin you down, but for really, really good reason. And we're going to get into that shortly. But just for the benefit of the listeners today, NAD Plus might be the first time they've ever heard of it. Give us the basics. What is NAD Plus?
Yeah, so obviously our company's called NAD at Home, and if you're not familiar, we are the suppliers of NAD is a foundational molecule in every single cell in our body. It's a foundational molecule. It's a coenzyme, and it is in charge basically of converting nutrients into energy, so our food into energy. It's sitting in the cells, and it's ready to turn our food and feed our mitochondria, which are our batteries of our cells, and then turn that into ATP, which is energy. So NAD is absolutely crucial to that, and it's involved with so many chemical processes within the human body. So it stands for the actual name is nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. That is the full name. Bit of a mouthful, but that is basically what NAD is. So right now you have lots of it in your body. You look super young, and the younger you are, the more you have. As we've discovered, as you age, NAD levels decrease. So that's quite an important thing to note. So yeah, that's essentially the very outline of what this molecule is.
And so what was your co-founder, right, Nikki? So how did this company come about? What was the journey? Why NAD?
So the pioneer of this company is somebody called John Gillen, who worked primarily in the rehab addiction space. So he stumbled on NAD back in 2009 in Mexico, where, funny enough, it's a hotbed for kind of bleeding edge technology, believe it or not. Specifically a clinic in Tijuana in Mexico. They were using this NAD molecule in an IV bag for addicts and alcoholics. John saw this, he witnessed this, and he saw that this IV people were having of NAD was having just mind-blowing effects. People were rejuvenated, they were coming back to life, addictions were being there was just something very special going on that he witnessed. And it became very evident that NAD was the crux of this. So he began a journey of doing NAD IVs. He brought it over to Europe, and then suddenly there was a trend. You might have seen or read about it. It was called, like, people kind of touting it as the hangover cure, or the Hollywood drip, or there was sort of rumblings about it, but it was very much within an elite space.
Sure.
So it definitely wasn't open to the general public. And if you did stumble across an NAD IV, it would have cost you thousands.
Mm.
And also, it takes a long time. An IV drip has to be given very slowly when it's NAD. So how does this fast forward to 2023 when we started NAD at home? We basically sat together and thought, let's try and democratize this. And we came up with a home kit. So we're not poo-pooing IV, but we decided not everyone can afford that. It takes a long time. We're coming up with a microdose version of getting this essential molecule into our system via injection into subcutaneous fat. So your belly fat, your bum fat, it has to be in the fat, not the muscle, not the vein.
Mm.
That's kind of the short version of how we got to today. So yeah.
Amazing. What are the benefits of NAD in the form that you guys have put together in this home kit? What are the benefits for people?
Right. Well, this is where it gets really interesting because, like I said, its first use case was to help on addiction, because there's something around NAD that works with neurotransmitters, and it's just shown to have a real benefit on curbing addiction, especially to alcohol.
Amazing. Mm.
Because when you drink acetaldehyde, which is the poison that you get from alcohol, it NAD has to be used up very quickly, and your NAD levels go down. So you're replenishing yourself. So that is why you can use it. You could actually use it as a hangover cure. That is why they touted it as a hangover cure, because NAD comes back into the system where alcohol's removed it. It's also got benefits for it's anti-aging. There's skin benefits. I think very early on, I burnt my hand on a pancake pan when I first started using NAD, and I noticed my skin turnover, the cells
Mm.
of the skin. The healing was incredible. I
Wow.
mean, I expected to have a scar on my hand because I really burnt the hell out of my hand,
Mm.
and this skin turnover was like a few days, and it was back to normal. So
Wow.
there's skin health. There's even been reports with eye health. I mean, it's cellular energy. So for me, I am long COVID person. I've got 4 children. I've got 18-year-old triplets, and I've got an 8-year-old. I have suffered with chronic fatigue for years, and just very flat line, no energy. Energy just it brings it all back. It brings me back to life. It's a game changer. So energy is key. Energy is
Incredible.
the number one. You can't more than a high cheekbone or a facelift. I think you want energy first.
Mm.
You want to, um,
It's
and so
kind of starting from within, isn't it? Which is
yes,
why this works so well for, and obviously everyone who listens to this podcast is, a practitioner in some way, generally speaking. They're working within the aesthetic space. So this is really bringing those kind of internal processes along with the skin that kind of works eventually into the injectables. You're kind of working from the very, very foundations, which I think is really, really interesting, and why I
it
think it's
is.
very beneficial for people to consider start bringing it into their practice, really.
Absolutely. I mean, in the States, you'll never walk into a clinic that hasn't got NAD sitting there, either as an IV or a subcut kit. I say subcut, subcutaneous injection.
Mm.
There are some people that will sell it as a tablet as well. We can talk about that later, but it's
Mm.
the most bioavailable version we found is this injecting it yourself. IV is gold standard, but that is not for everyone. I would really say that should sit in a rehab setting still. And maybe some other chronic conditions but people don't have time to sit for hours on an IV. Nobody's got time
Sure.
anymore. We're so time poor. We want the
Mm.
quick answer. And cellular health is such a big topic. We need to fix what's going on in the cells before we even think about the rest. And if we have belt and braces of NAD, where NAD is
Mm.
being lost, then we've got one box checked off, and then
Yeah.
we can look at the rest. But skin health, yeah. I mean, I'm coming up to 50 next
Wow, you look
month.
great.
50 next month, but who cares, right? It doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
it's just a number, isn't it? And it's cliche, but it is true. And I think it is only, you're as old as you feel at the
Yeah,
end of the day. And like you say, your health internally, your skin health, your fitness, they all play a role in how you feel.
yeah, absolutely.
So I've got down that you can purchase NAD plus home, right? Um,
at
are
home.
there are there other versions of it? I've seen you've got your injectable. There's also a tablet form. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What are the benefits of being on the injectable over the tablets?
Well, we haven't launched. Well, we haven't got a tablet with you guys at the moment. We're
Mhm.
still in
Have you
the
not launched
tablet.
a tablet?
No,
Okay, that's
no,
fine.
because yeah, it's not available yet because we just cut this bit out.
You just
Yeah,
can't. Yeah, that's fine.
can't
Cut
talk
that.
about that yet. But a tablet
But if you're
version.
talking about the different versions we have on that live with them, we have the lyophilized, we have the vial only so that they can do shots in clinic, and we have the home kit.
That'd be
Yeah,
great.
I believe we've
So,
got a product for an
So to
IV,
ask the
which
question
is the
again.
light. Do you want to ask me that again?
yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got a range of products, and obviously these products are going to be available on Faces. If you want to just kind of go into detail on what products you do have,
Yeah.
what's probably best for practitioners to look at using in
Yeah.
clinic.
Yes. So depending on how the clinic wants to run things, if they do want to have an IV situation, then we do sell a lyophilized version where they will then reconstitute that in the clinic. So that's for an IV, and obviously, like I said, there is still a cohort of people that will definitely need and benefit from an IV, without a doubt, without a
Mm,
doubt. By the way, I can't, because of marketing rules, I
yeah,
can't talk about how it does help with neurodegenerative disease. But
sure.
if you look that up yourself, you'll see
Yeah,
that there are studies around Parkinson's and Alzheimer's with NADIV and more. But so we sell that. We sell the powder version, lyophilized. We also sell that take home kit. So the practitioners can sell this on to their clients in the clinic. Very pretty kits we have.
that's the big one that you see kind of
Oh,
all on your
yeah,
Instagram. It's the one that's the one that
yeah.
people probably recognize, right?
Home kit where you will get your own. Every client will get 20 needles. I'll show you a needle now. Actually, you'll get 20 syringes like this, and this is what your client will use to inject themselves. It's a very fine needle, very similar to Botox or even a
Mm,
insulin syringe. Not that, it's people are doing very well with this. They're not
mm,
as frightened as we thought they might be, I must say. So you get 20 of these in a kit with a sharp spin where you place your,
perfect.
and 1,000 milligrams of NAD. We also can sell just vial only. If a practitioner just wants to give clients shots herself,
Mm,
subcutaneous shots versus
okay,
an IV, we can just sell the vial only version as well. I believe we've got that on your platform. So there's three
excellent.
different versions of the NAD. Mhm.
Excellent. And with the at-home kit, is that a monthly kit? Does that last them for the entire month? Do they do one per day? Like, what's your dosage system like?
Yeah, I mean, there's no two people are the same.
Okay.
Everybody, it depends what you're trying to support. Let's just take me as an example. So, long COVID chronic fatigue, I take an injection every day
Hmm.
of 0.25 of a mil, which is just marked as 25 on this. That's the wrong syringe. It's marked as 25 on the syringe, but we've got video instructions on the kit. We've got a QR code.
Sure.
Scan it. Up comes a YouTube video showing you how to do it. If you just want it as a hangover cure, you would keep it in your fridge. Well, you'd
Mm,
keep it in your fridge anyway, and just use it before and after drinking, and you'll notice immediately your hangover's gone. If you suffer with hangovers, if you're doing this just purely for anti-aging, we say 3 days on and then every other day. So as you can see, it depends how you use it to as how long it will last.
sure.
So for me, it won't last as long because I may even up the dose, to be honest. It's
Mm,
not that critical. You can't really overdose because this is a microdose. So if you do a little bit more, that's fine. It's a little bit like suck it and see
yeah.
what works for
Okay.
you. If you're getting that boost of energy at that, then just keep going with that regime of daily or every other day.
And because it's a natural product within the body, I suppose your body, it's not like, for example, Botox. You can quite easily over inject and overdose someone with that.
Mm.
So your body's, naturally going to break that down as
Mm.
soon as you've injected it, really. So that's good, because I'm assuming that's probably one of the main concerns. One, getting over the needle usage. So that's really good to hear that people have taken to it quite well, because you're never sure how people are going to take to doing
No.
injectables. And then the dosage situation and people being a bit scared of a vial and thinking, oh, am I going to
Yeah.
overdose myself? So that's really good.
Yeah. I think once they taste that, it depends what they're trying, again, what is it
Sure.
you're trying to support. But once you taste that extra energy, if that's the thing you're
Mm,
searching for, that needle means nothing. You want that energy
yeah.
back and you'll be,
Let's
yeah.
get it
And
in
to be
there.
honest, it doesn't really hurt. And my suggestion is always to do it in the bum cheek, the butt cheek,
Mm.
depending on, because, well, that's my fattiest area, but the
It's
fattier the area, the easier.
the better, yeah, the easier.
Mm.
I'm just going to come on to at-home injectables a little bit, because obviously I think especially over the past couple of years, they seem to be becoming more popular than ever. You've got
Peptides.
your weight loss injectables and stuff like
Mm.
that, at home. I don't suppose you've got any thoughts on why this is, why we've sort of moved um, towards these at-home injectables, and putting the care in people's own hands, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say. We're giving people the opportunity to take care of it
Yeah.
themselves.
Okay. Do you know what? I do think I have the answer to that. And I'm going to use me as an
Mm,
example. I don't know if I've mentioned this yet, but the three women, the three girls that run this with the three kind of co-founders, we've got the pioneer,
mm,
John Gillen, that sits in the background, but the three of us have 11 kids between us. And the one thing we have found in the last decade, or certainly last 5 years, is we don't have time. We don't have
mm,
time. The job list is so long, it's a joke, it's ridiculous. So any hack, this is biohacking. This is what
mm.
really what we're talking about. We're talking about biohacking, and this biohacking space has
It
exploded.
really has,
I
yeah.
can give you a few hours of your day back because you haven't got to drive down to a clinic and have an 8-hour IV or whatever it is. You're going to go for that option. And we have been, this is a tested product. We know that the system, it's working, and people just need their time back. And that's what we're trying to do. We're
Put
trying
the
to help
power
you.
in their own hands,
Yeah,
really.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And there's peptides out there, there's other things, and people
Yeah.
just are jumping on it. They
Yeah, I
don't want
completely
another
agree.
process
I
like
I
to.
think you're totally right, and I think especially in the UK. I mean, I can only really speak for the UK, and I know you guys have probably got US and stuff, you'd have done all your market research, but
Mm.
especially here, I think, it's so hard to get an appointment these days. It's so difficult
Hmm.
to go the traditional route.
Yeah,
I think people have turned to thinking, I would rather control this myself. I'd rather know that I can get hold of it when I need it. I
yeah,
can administer it when I need to do it.
yeah,
I don't have to, constantly, like you say, make the time, take time out of work,
yeah.
drag the kids with me.
Mm.
Um, and I think you've hit the
Exactly.
nail on the head there. There's just something in the last 2 to 5 years that seems
Mm.
to have completely shifted. And like you say, it's
Yeah,
exploded.
yeah.
Um, it's interesting that, I've just come to kind of get to know you guys really in the last sort of 12 months.
Mm.
And you're kind of in this space as well. So
We're
how
just
long does it,
hearing it. We're hearing it. All the women. I can only talk for the women. There's a
of
lot.
course.
It's a lot of women. Well, funny enough, I think we're 60% female. Is it now,
Are
Trinity, and
you?
40%
Yeah.
the metrics?
Yeah.
There is a lot to be said for the male species and how this is helping them. But I'll just speak for the women. We are just, oh my God, multitasking isn't even the word.
Mm,
And we're getting decision fatigue. That's a real thing. We are
yeah.
getting tired of making decisions. We're thinking for all our kids as well. And we just get so excited if someone says, hey, I've got a hack for this. This is going to take you 10 minutes now.
Mm.
Give me your hacks. That's what I want to know. So then I can have more time to actually have some fun and not just think about all the logistics of the day and,
And
yeah.
it's putting, self-care at the heart. It's all well and good, the self-care culture. We
Mm.
love that. Great. However, a lot of the suggestions tend to take a lot of time, right? So again, we come back to that time issue. And
Yeah.
it's like, how many of us actually have time for loads of self-care? But this is probably one of the best methods of self-care. And it takes 2 minutes in the
Yeah.
morning to actually do it.
And not
Um,
only that, you will see the benefits. I'm not going to tell
yeah.
you to wait 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Here's the great USP about this. You will see it immediately. And
Wow.
you really will, unless there's a small percentage of people, which this gets a bit technical, but might have methylation issues. We can go into that more detail another time, but there's a tiny percent of people who may not have, it may take a while. They may need to look at they might have other issues that will stop NAD working, but that's quite a small percent. We don't hear that often. And we've had people ringing us, giving us reviews saying, hey, my eyesight's improved. Well, we didn't know that wasn't necessarily number one on our list of benefits, but we're seeing different things occur because NAD goes to where it's most needed. That's what's so interesting.
Okay, so the body
Whatever's
kind of
failing,
knows. Okay.
yeah, the body will send it to where it's lacking the most. I
Wow.
don't know whether that's because it's involved in DNA repair as well. So yeah,
Interesting.
no, it is. So cell care, that is the tagline there.
Are there known side effects from NAD as far as you're aware?
Only on the IV. If you have an IV of NAD, if it's pushed too quickly, you can get tightening of the chest, you can have nausea. It has to be very carefully and slowly pushed in if you're highly sensitive. So yes, not on the microdose injection. We've kind of mitigated. That's why we do a microdose version, so you won't get those side effects that you can with an IV.
Yeah, it's just too small a dose, isn't it? Like
Yeah,
you say, you're doing
yeah,
it over time rather than all at once.
yeah. Correct. Yeah.
So you've mentioned about seeing results. I was interested to know how long you might take to start seeing them. So as far as you're aware, it's quite instantaneous then, really,
The
depending what you're
energy.
using it for. Yeah, especially for
Yeah,
energy.
yeah. The skin, the your kind of like improved skin texture and tone and things
Mm,
like that. That will come over time. I've definitely noticed in my skin, it just
mm,
crept up on me. I was like, oh my God, yeah, I do see this. Energy instant, that's an instant one. Sleep, it also helps with sleep. If you suffer, I was somebody who suffered with no lack of deep sleep, by the way. And
mm,
a lot of us in our office, we wear wearables. In fact, I'm not wearing it today, but I have a ring called an Aura ring that measures my sleep, my deep sleep, my REM sleep, and my light
mm.
sleep. And I was, before I started NAD, my deep sleep was at 3 minutes, and it should have been at around
Wow.
an hour and a half.
Mm,
And I had a sleep study to prove that I had no slow wave sleep, which is deep sleep. After starting NAD, I think it took about a week before I saw my Aura ring, which is measuring my sleep, was telling me that I was getting an hour and a half. So I had a
amazing.
visible metric right
Wow.
there. And there are more and more people that use wearables to see what's going on with them on a kind of daily basis. So you can measure
Yeah,
by
like
those
you
types of
say,
metrics.
there's no mistake in that, is there?
No,
There's no. You've gone
no,
through all that study and everything to be told, you basically lack this ability to have deep sleep,
yeah.
and then
And
we've
also, I
introduced NAD, and then we're now getting this result.
Yeah. And I think as well, people haven't got time to read all the studies and do all the research themselves, back to the whole time thing. So what just sometimes you are the test. You are that experiment. So try it, see what works for you. Just try it once. And if
Mm,
you get the kick that we get, then you know it's worked. But we are our own kind of little N of one, as they call it, our own little biological experiment. And we are not the same. None of us have the same blueprint inside. This is what I've learned from dealing with a lot of science, the science community. It's really fascinating when you learn who you are, even the kind of ancestral links as well. They're very
mm,
interesting. Like I'm half Norwegian and I actually I thrive on fish, literally, because my
mm.
ancestors did. It's interesting when you start to find out about
Yeah,
who you
sure.
are
Yeah,
and
on a
how you are.
biological level. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
there's a lot more people doing these ancestry tests and DNA tests and stuff now, and you can see
why
why, because
wouldn't
it's
you?
fascinating,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yeah.
And like you say, it goes back to this biohacking thing, which seems to have just had this massive. I don't know if because maybe social media in the last 5 years just seems to have blown up, like even bigger than it was before. And so the access to all this kind of information and knowledge now is just, it's everywhere. And
Yeah.
biohacking is one of those things that seems to have just taken
And I
off in
love
the last
it.
few years.
It's nice for our younger daughters to actually take an interest in biology or science or
Mm,
something that's actually not just about what we look like. Of course,
sure.
there's a nice result. Don't get me wrong with NAD, but let's actually look a little bit further in and actually show the young ones, let's take an interest in ourselves. We want to have kind of power over our health.
Yeah.
And that's been obvious since the COVID thing. And
And I think that's what we've got. We've seen a change in the aesthetics industry. I know you guys kind of sit somewhere within wellness and sort of bridging that gap, I would
Mm,
say. You're kind
mm,
of in between both worlds. But we've definitely seen a change in the aesthetics industry in the last few years. People are looking for more natural results. People are, turning towards more of the microneedling, the chemical peels, the skin treatments, as opposed to everything being filler, 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 filler.
yeah,
And I think that that is stemming from the younger generation. They're not as interested in it. They are looking more holistically, looking at their health a lot more.
yeah,
There's a lot of studies around their attachment to social media is very different to maybe my generation.
yeah,
And so they're not as heavily swayed as our generation were by
yeah.
influencers,
I think you're
all of
right.
this stuff. So I definitely think you're right there about looking at our children, our daughters, our youngsters that are now coming into this wellness, aesthetics, beauty space.
Mm,
I think they will be early adopters of
mm,
these sort of trends.
yeah,
And they will be the ones that kind of take it forward. So I definitely think
mm,
for practitioners that are listening and thinking, okay, how can I bring this kind of product into my clinic? How can I definitely think it's worth considering because it's where the industry is going.
it
The
is.
trends, the data is telling us that.
Yeah. And when we're at
Um,
shows, when we're at these aesthetic shows, I'm like,
yeah,
wow, this isn't really our space, but oh my God, we're
I
flooded.
think it is. Yeah, I
Plastic
think it
surgeons are
is.
coming up to us saying, if this is very good for healing, this is going
Mm,
to speed up healing after plastic surgery.
sure.
There it is. There's another benefit to using NAD because it does aid in skin healing. It
I hadn't
really
even
does.
thought about that, Nikki, actually, because I do permanent makeup. So, skin healing's a really big thing. When you've tattooed
Yes.
someone and having the right products, it can really make or break the actual treatment. So
Yeah.
it's interesting, even from permanent makeup, I wonder, can we start looking at how NAD plus helps regenerate the skin and maybe you
Yeah.
get a much better heal on your permanent
Yeah.
makeup? So yeah, it's I hadn't even considered it. I do a lot of
Yeah.
microneedling. So again, it's how does that microneedling, go hand in hand with something like this
Yeah.
and boost those results from the inside out.
Yeah. Definitely. And that's why we were flooded. We had so many people at our stand talking
Yeah,
about that. That came up a lot. And but again, don't trust me, try it yourself because I'm telling
yeah.
you the results will speak for themselves. And yeah, it
Is it
really
on your
is.
agenda more for 2025 to go to more of these sort of aesthetics, beauty shows and conventions? Is that, now you've had some positive feedback from the industry, is that an area where you're thinking, we
Absolutely.
could get a
Yeah.
foot in there?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Anything. Yeah, we are. God, 2025. Can you believe?
It's around the corner,
Yeah.
Nikki. I hate to say
Yeah.
it's around the corner.
No, I just suddenly I saw the bloody Halloween decorations yesterday, and I was like, "Oh my God, here we go
I know. I
again."
don't know where this year has gone.
But even the kids are saying, "Mum, time's speeding up." You think it's you because you're
Mm,
aging. You're like, "Oh, what's a year? What's a year anymore? It's like a couple of weeks." But even the kids are like, "No, things are really." So yeah,
yeah, moving
but you
on.
will see us around. You will see us at some of the aesthetic shows. I mean, you can tell me where we should go. To be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have a
Yeah.
conversation after for
Mm.
sure. So as we know, NAD plus at home has already seen success, but just how big do you as a company expect the injectable wellness market to become over the next 5 years?
I think it's already happening now. When I look at the metrics in the States, it's $1 billion market. It's
Wow.
yeah. I mean, you can look at it. They're not hidden. The metrics they're there for anyone to read about.
Mm,
Injectables, peptides, as well. It's huge. It's a huge market now. You can't ignore it. And if you want to be, in the zeitgeist of what's happening today, that's where to be. But I'll always say, and I say this to people when they come up to me at events, just try it yourself. Don't look at our Trustpilot. We're one of the only supplement brands in this space that uses Trustpilot because we're happy to
mm,
be transparent with what our customers
mm.
say. If there are, we want to show that this is
It
coming from our
works.
hearts. We're three mums. We were exhausted. We had our own health problems. This is why we set this up because we wanted to tell the other that we wanted to democratize this
Mm,
because this was a very expensive treatment only a few years ago. You
mm.
would have to have at least $1,000 to sit on an IV. And now things are changing. So we want to get that message out and we want people to just try it.
Okay, so
Yeah.
For those practitioners considering offering NAD plus at home kits to their clients, how does this work? Can you explain the partnership with Faces? How did that come about?
Yeah, no, Ash, the founder of Faces, got in touch because he absolutely loved our product. And I think he wanted to actually offer, I think we might be the first kind of cellular health. It's not medication, it's actually nutritional therapy.
Mm.
And we want to be able to make that available to consumers and practitioners, which obviously we can do by the Faces platform. I think Ash just was excited about, finally getting this out there to the bigger domain. And so we're excited to use your platform to do that. So yeah, if you log on, I don't know how you log on. If you jump on and however you usually access, you'll see us there. Just search up NAD at home.
There's going to be a campaign going out anyway for those of you that are really interested in looking at this. There's going to be loads of information about NAD. Blessed Trinity's provided me with all of that information, so you could take a look at that, and it will be available on the Faces shop, so you'll be able to purchase it directly as a practitioner if you want to do it in house. If you want to just sell on the at home kits directly to your clients, you can hook them up with that through us. So yeah, it's really, really exciting, really interesting. Like you say, first product of its kind, on the store. Is there anything that we've missed today, Nikki, that you feel you really want to mention? Or there's points that you've not quite touched on, or there's some important information that you've not managed to kind of get across?
I think the only thing I didn't mention was it's actually used as well in recovery, muscle recovery, post workouts.
Okay,
We
yeah.
have a lot of athletes who like to use this for a quicker recovery. I'm not someone that really trains that much, so I'm more of a dog walking type. So I can't talk to how quick this happens, but I know that it's huge in that space as well. To
I
be
can
honest, a
imagine.
quick Google of NAD will show you how much this is being talked about right now. Um, I think we were just featured in the Times actually last weekend.
Yes, you were saying, yeah, congratulations, it's great.
That popped up there. So yeah, there is a lot of chatter right now about it, which is actually quite strange because it was around a while ago. But I think
Mm.
it's amazing to me how undercover this therapy really was.
Mm.
Just wasn't accessible to everyone.
No,
Uh,
and I think, we'll get a lot of questions from practitioners about this because,
yeah,
it's not, it's very just starting to kind of come out. So the moment we start pushing these emails and stuff out about NADs, well, I wanted to get you guys on because I want them to have an understanding of how great it is. We can then
mm,
push out all of those materials, and then
yeah,
hopefully with the better understanding, they'll be
yeah.
fully on board and ready to sort of go, you know what, I really want to integrate this into my clinic.
Absolutely. And we do sort of, hats off to the pioneer that did find this therapy in Mexico
Mm.
all those years ago. And he did, he saw what he saw and he brought this into Europe. So we do see ourselves as pioneering the therapy and working with the top researchers.
Yeah,
Actually,
working with
funny
the
enough,
best of the
yeah,
best.
we are
Yeah,
working with the best of the best at the moment. And we know it works. We really do. Just
yeah.
try it for yourself. Just think about what you want to support, what's wrong. Are you a knackered mum? Are you I don't know. There's so many benefits. Just give it a
That's
try.
the exciting thing, isn't it? I think, like you say, with the body kind of directing it to where it's needed. I don't
Yeah.
think you necessarily know what's wrong with you
Yeah, yeah,
until
yeah.
you're on it. It's one of
Yeah,
those. Like you didn't
yeah.
realize how poor your sleep necessarily was until you
That's
slept.
such a good point. You never know how ill
Yeah,
realize you weren't feeling normal
yeah.
until
Because it
you
is your
actually
normal,
feel
isn't it?
normal. No,
That's the
that's right.
thing.
Yeah, that is actually very true.
So I
Until,
feel like
yeah,
you've got to give it a go to really figure out,
yeah,
what your optimal health actually is. Because
yeah,
I think you're so used to walking around like a zombie, and I can only speak from
yes.
experience because I've got a thyroid disorder and I've had it for 15
Is it
years. So
Hashimoto's or
it is, yeah. So
well? I've got that too.
I'm
So
very interested about NAD now, and I'm sure it
yeah,
will help. But
yeah,
knowing what that's like, just walking around in this bubble of your normal, and then when you finally get that thyroid medication, for example, it's like, oh my god, is this what
master
normal is
energy,
like?
steroids. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have Hashimoto's too. So yeah, high
Okay.
five on that
Okay.
one.
High five.
Yeah, and
Very,
it's
very
in
interested in
charge of
it.
your energy. So yeah, I really feel for you on that. That
Yeah.
kind of. But the thing is, I think as well, someone could say, well, why? how did the caveman knock around without NAD then? Well, the thing is, the caveman didn't have the assaults that we have in today's
Yeah,
society with the
yeah,
toxins, the pollutants, our food, the soil, all
everything.
the assaults the body's taking. This little body of ours, this flesh bag thing we're walking around in, is taking so many insults
Yeah,
on a day to day that
yeah.
we have to
The
mitigate now
world is a
against it.
different place. The world is a different
Different.
place. Like even from a sort of mentally draining perspective,
Oh,
the internet, social media, your
yeah.
work schedules, none of those things were a thing. So
No,
we're just conditioned to work in this environment, and actually we're not suited to this
we
environment.
are
We
not.
shouldn't actually be working and living the way
Yeah,
that we do. It's just that
exactly right.
that's how we've progressed, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, it's no wonder that we're seeing all of these health problems, and we're
Yes.
living longer, which, is a great thing. But
Mm.
also there's a
Maybe a
downside
bit
to living
thicker,
longer. It
longer,
means
but maybe not as wet, as healthy, you know.
sure. Yeah, we've got to find ways, like you say, to biohack our way
Yeah,
through our
yeah.
aging process,
And
because
this is why the space has exploded.
it is, yeah, yeah.
You see why it's so damn, it's a rabbit hole, you know.
Mm,
And now I know you've got Hashimoto's as well. That is
mm.
interesting. So I do think you need to give it a try.
Yeah, 100%.
Um,
It's very exciting. As soon as you kept
mm,
mentioning fatigue, I was like, I need to get on this, because
yeah,
it's such
yeah.
a roller coaster, even with your thyroid medications.
Oh,
You're up one minute, and then the next minute they're not effective, or you experience
yeah,
fatigue even though that your levels are apparently right, when you've had your
yeah.
tests, you know how it is. So
Mm,
it's an up and down roller coaster, and it would be
mm,
nice to find some sort of leveling off of that.
mm.
And I wonder if NAD plus is the answer.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let me
It's a
know.
good way to round it off. I will.
Yeah.
Can you let our listeners know where they can find you? Obviously, they can find you on Faces. We know that. But
Mhm.
outside of Faces, what's your website? What's your Instagram? Where can people go and just learn more and explore?
Yeah, so it's NAD plus at home.com, as simple as
Mhm.
that for the website, and Instagram is at NAD plus at home. If they want to deep dive into more of a research side, if we've got any, I don't know, biochemists listening, they can look at nadresearch.org, where there's
Excellent.
plenty of published science and interesting blogs around where NAD's been really powerfully used. Um, and those are the three key places I would suggest starting. Yeah, definitely. But we're very, look at our trust pilot, look at what our other customers say.
I've had a little look already.
Mm,
It's really, really good. You've had
mm,
amazing feedback.
mm.
As you say, the founder Ash has been on it, reached out to you guys, and
Yeah,
said we need you on
yeah,
the store. So that's already a great thing.
yeah,
Thank you
definitely.
so much for joining us, Nikki. You've been wonderful to speak to. Obviously, best of luck with NAD. I'm sure I'll speak to you at some point anyway.
Yeah,
And
we want
is
feedback. We want feedback when you start using
yeah,
it. We want to hear how you get on. We always say it to everyone we speak to. Just,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah,
All
we'll
right,
do.
that's
I'll
lovely.
feedback, and I'll trust pilot you as well, of course.
Yes. All
Thank
right.
you, Nikki.
Thank you. Bye.